Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल Hare Krishna. Let's continue our discussion on the first canto, 13th chapter, titled Dhrtarastra Quits Home. In the last session, we saw how Vidura, after having traveled to different places of pilgrimage, he comes back to Hastinapur and he was duly welcomed and worshipped by the Pandavas. And the only purpose of Vidura to have come back, despite having taken retirement from his material duties, was simply to deliver his elder brother, Dhrtarastra. And we saw how Vidura, even though by then had learned about the departure of Krishna, along with the annihilation of the entire clan of Yadus, he withheld that information from sharing with Yudhishthir Maharaj. And the purpose for that is, he thought, anyway, it's bad news, which Yudhishthir Maharaj will come to know in due course, and he didn't want to be the bearer of bad news unnecessarily. Pure devotees won't cause any agitation in other people's minds unnecessarily, especially when something which is as devastating as the news of Krishna's departure. So Vidura chose not to share this information with them. And after he has been welcomed, worshipped, greeted, Vidura takes that opportunity to preach to his elder brother Dhrtarastra. And we saw how Vidura used many strong statements to drive home the point why Dhrtarashtra should quit his material affairs and he should leave home to seek perfection in his life. And we saw his arguments concluded with him defining who a dhira is, somebody who leaves his home without telling anyone to a faraway place to attain perfection. He also gave description about Narottama. Narottama is someone who voluntarily or being inspired by someone leaves his material affairs, having been totally dependent on Lord Hari, and then goes to the forest to perform spiritual practices and eventually goes back to the spiritual world. And then he concludes his arguments saying that Dhritarashtra can't be a Narottama, at least he should be a Dhira. Because Narottama means by then he would have already left. The very fact he's still staying in the home means he's not Narottama. So he encourages him at least become a Dhira. This is the time for you to quit and leave towards the north. Upon being advised by Vidura, Dhritarashtra finally had a change of heart and he left home the next day morning. Next day morning, Dhritarashtra, he left after being firmly convinced by the knowledge given by Vidura. Prajna, it's given. So that knowledge is very, very penetrating. Knowledge is wealth, as they say. Anything in this world, if you want to make If you want to build, if you want to establish something, you need knowledge. It can be in both material or spiritual affairs. Because of this knowledge which Vidura has given had finally penetrated his heart, he was convinced that nothing which he has been so far holding is going to stay with him forever. He should, at least at this point of time, let things go and prepare for his next life. So cutting the knot of attachment with this strong weapon of knowledge, Dhrtarastra lives. And along with Dhrtarastra, his chaste wife Gandhari, she also lives along with her husband to the Himalayas. Next day morning, Yudhishthir Maharaj, of course, Vidura had also left along with them. Next day morning, when Yudhishthir Maharaj gets up, he performs his morning rituals and he comes to greet his two uncles, which is Dhrtarashtra as well as Vidura and Gandhari. And when he comes there, he was shocked to see none of them there. Then he frantically runs around and he meets the secretary or the personal servant of Dhrtarashtra, Sanjaya. It's the same Sanjaya we see who has narrated the entire conversation of Bhagavad Gita between Krishna and Arjuna to Dhrtarashtra. So when Yudhishthir Maharaj meets Sanjaya and asks about the whereabouts, Sanjaya, being overwhelmed by the emotion of separation from Dhrtarashtra because he had served with him all along, Yudhishthir Maharaj feels very bad because Yudhishthir Maharaj, as always, he takes the blame. In this instance also, he says, did I commit any offenses to my uncles and aunt? Were they hurt by my heinous crime of killing all their 100 sons? And because of that, they just went and drowned in Ganga. Is that what happened? And then he comes to Sanjaya and he asks about the whereabouts. Sanjaya could only say, I have been cheated by those great souls. Meaning, even though he was prepared to spend the rest of his life to keep serving Dhritarashtra, they just left without even informing him. So when Yudhishthir Maharaj was completely devastated at this point, Narada Muni comes. And Narada Muni gives a series of instructions to Yudhishthir Maharaj. And this series of instructions is very important. This is one section I have used a few times in my preaching, especially when devotees or even otherwise people who come, they are bereaved by somebody near and who's very near and dear to them. And if they don't find themselves coming out of that lamentation, I always tell them to read this section. It's very important for us to know. This is the section of the first canto, 13th chapter, verses 38 to 60. Here, Narada Muni gives a series of very, very logical instructions. You can also read why we should not be so worried, why we should understand, first of all, we ourselves are in a precarious position and we definitely are no match to the power of time and we definitely can't protect anybody in this world. And Narada Muni gives a very, very graphical way of driving home this point. So it's very important. First, Narada Muni arrives and Yudhishthir Maharaj asks Narada Muni, because Narada Muni is a Trikal Jnani. Trikal Jna, it's given somebody who knows past, present, and future. So he asks, Yudhishthir Maharaj asks Narada Muni, do you know where my two uncles and aunt, they have gone? Narada Muni, firstly, he philosophically dispels the illusion of Yudhishthir Maharaj. He says, in this world, separation cannot be prevented. You will find similar instructions being repeated, same theme being repeated in different cantos in Srimad Bhagavatam. One section that comes to mind is when Nanda Baba goes and meets Vasudeva in Mathura. This is prior to Krishna killing Putana, or on the same day of Krishna killing Putana. Nanda Baba goes to Mathura to pay the tax, and then before returning, he goes to meet Vasudeva. So there you will come across this theme of how who we call as relatives in this world They are just like few pieces of wood that are brought together by the waves of time. How long or what are the chances that those pieces of wood will stay together until another wave comes gushing and scatters all of them? So similarly here also, Narada Muni says separation is inevitable in this world. And we can take a moment to think about what are the things which we thought we are going to hold on permanently in our lives. That can be your car, your home, your situation, family, anything. And then if we are very honest with ourselves and we objectively observe, we will always come to the same conclusion that despite us not wanting to part away from certain things or certain people, time still comes and pulls it out, either directly or indirectly. Imperceptibly, it comes and takes away. Sometimes the snatching away is very abrupt, whereas most of the times it's very subtle. We won't even realize it. And Krishna is very merciful. He will allow us to cope with that situation so much so that we won't even realize that we are losing things which we are very, very attached to. Family is one of them. So here he says separation cannot be prevented. So that's the first instruction Narada Muni gives to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He says everyone is under Lord's control. Yad Ishvara Vasham Jagat. Yad Ishvara. Ishvara is controller. Vasham means under the control. Jagat. This entire universe is under the control of the Supreme Lord. He is the leader of all. He brings the living entities together and disperses them. So do not lament, which means how funny will it be if the different pieces on a chessboard start to lament together? If you move, let's say, bishop to one corner, bishop starts to cry, oh, I'm moving away from the other pawns. You would laugh at it, saying like, hey, cool down, calm down. You're just the pieces there playing a certain role, and we are the ones who are playing games with you. So you just do your job. You just go wherever we move you and just stay there. Our position is exactly like that, like those pieces on a chessboard. And who is the player there? Krishna is the player. Krishna moves us around, and we don't have the vision why Krishna is moving us from one place to the other. It is said even in a war, the foot soldiers won't know the full strategy. Only the commanders of the army, they would actually sit on a high plane, and from there they'll be able to see. And they'll tell to the foot soldiers, go to this corner, go to that corner. Many times they would run blindly without knowing why they are running. But they put the full trust on the commander and they ask to go. So same way, in our spiritual life also, Guru Karnadaram, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is the captain of the ship. Sometimes it's very easy for us to appreciate the instruction, why we are doing what we are doing. Sometimes we may not, but we need to put that faith and then practice it and allow that practice to, over a period of time, get converted as realization within our heart, and then we will develop much more firm conviction to take up this path of bhakti more seriously. So that's how we have to do. So here, Narada Muni says, everyone is under Lord's control. Now, to support this point, he gives two analogies, beautiful analogies. First, he says a cow is bound by a rope through its nose. Similarly, human beings are bound by Vedic injunctions. So many times people say, I don't believe in God. I don't need to follow any Vedic injunctions. And the scriptures, time and again, they say they are not even atheistic. They're just mad people who can say that. Because even such people who say that they don't believe in God, why don't they have the courage to say, I don't believe in death? They can't, because nobody has the power to say, I don't believe in death. Who in this world is very willingly going and embracing death? Nobody. Everyone hates to die. Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti Himalayam. Seshastavaram ichanti kim ascharya matapara. Everyone in this world, Yudhishthira Maharaj says, everyone in this world, seeing other people die, nevertheless, they feel death will not come to them alone, but everyone will die. So even people, so-called people who are naysayers about existence of God, who are saying, I don't believe in Vedic injunctions, why don't they say, I don't believe in death also? They can't, because death will come and take them away. That's why Prabhupada would often say, you either accept the existence of God, or you can keep on denying it until you meet him in the form of death. But then at that time, the experience will be very painful. On the other hand, one who takes up to this path of bhakti, they will also meet with death. But for them, rather than death being a devastating blow, it will be such a welcome relief. Who would not want to meet Krishna face to face? Who would not want to go back to the spiritual world? But the ticket to that is death. So for us, when we practice bhakti, as every day goes, we are one step closer to Radha Gopinath. For an atheist or people who blindly keep on denying the existence of God, for them, every single step is God knows what's awaiting for them in the next life. So here he says, just like how a cow is bound by a rope through its nose, similarly, we are also bound by the instructions which Krishna has given in the Vedic scriptures. And the second example he gives, what we touched on just now, is just like how a player sets up different playthings. Just like in a chessboard, you may have different pieces, and at the end, you just scatter them. You know, have you seen little kids? They'll play, and after the end of the play, they'll just throw things here, there. Similarly, our position is also like that. That a player is actually setting up things. Similarly, Krishna is putting us in a certain situation. We don't have any choice. Similarly, the Lord, he after playing, he may say, okay, now you change the body, go to the next life. You stay in this human body. You go to the spiritual world. So that's how much control we have. In other words, we don't have any control at all. We are totally dependent on Krishna. And Krishna, as a loving father, only he knows. Yata krido paskaranam, yata krido paskaranam, samyoga vigamaviha, ichaya kriditu syatam, tatai vechaya nrinam. Just like how a player brings together different pieces, and at the end, they just like separates. Similarly, Supreme Lord, he brings people together and then he separates them by his supreme will. Only he knows why he is doing what he is doing. None of us know. So he says, lamentation, this being the case wherein we have zero control. If there is something, we have trouble in life, why worry? Can we do something about it? Oh, I can do. Then why worry? Is there something you can't do about it? No, looks like I can't do anything to fix this problem. Then why worry again? It's the same thing. Narada Muni says with that logic, you are in the situation. Yes, now people who are close to you, your uncles and aunt, they have gone away. Is there anything you can do? No, nothing. Then Narada Muni says, then why worry? Because you can't do anything anyway. So he says, because of this logic, he says lamentation and separation, knowing very well that you cannot do something, still you sit and lament. He says, this is because of illusion. What's the point in worrying about something, about a problem which you can't fix anyway? What's the point in crying? What's the point in crying over death? We cannot do anything anyway. There's a famous story I remember hearing in my school days about Lord Buddha. Once one mother comes and cries to Lord Buddha that she has lost her young son. And she appeals to Lord Buddha that, please bring him back alive. Then Buddha says, yeah, that's fine, I can do. Can you please go and beg like a handful of, I've heard different versions of that, but he asks her to go beg a handful of grain from a home in which no death has ever happened. No death has ever occurred. Then she goes to one home. When she goes, cries, please save my son's life. He is dead, but Buddha says he can bring him back alive if only I can get grains. Then people are very moved by her appeal and they come and give her grains. And she asks them, by the way, has any death occurred in your family? Then they say, yeah, my grandfather passed away last week. Then she gives back the grain, go to the next home, next home, next home. In this way, she goes every home. And then she finally comes back to Buddha and says, sorry, I can't come across a home. I can't find a family in which there was no death ever. Then Buddha says, that's the point. Everyone at some point of time will die. So here says, lamentation and separation is only due to illusory affection. That doesn't mean we should be indifferent to others. We should actually take care, but understand very well, ultimately, it's up to the Supreme Lord. How much we actually deal with people, to that extent, we can take care of them. But then once when death comes and separates people, we cannot do anything. So this is why Atma Gyan, Divya Gyan is so important, because that is the instruction which Krishna gives to Arjuna. That is the only solace, and it's not based on some blind faith. It is based on scientific proofs. It is based on very, very strong, convincing logic. So it's very, very important that we study scriptures, and this way we get, yes, there will be some pangs of pain when somebody very near to us, they die. But then the philosophy, the knowledge will come to aid, and then naturally we can slowly pick ourselves up and move on with life. So that's what Narada Muni says here, that one should raise oneself from the platform of being bodily conscious to being self-conscious or soul-conscious. And he says, give up your anxiety due to ignorance. Your biggest anxiety is, how will they live without me? Again, he says this is another type of illusion, wherein we think we are the controller, we are the ones who are taking care of other people. And he gives a very, very beautiful analogy. This is something I always try to meditate on, especially when you find things, you try to do something, and there's something you cannot actually do. There is only so much you can do. Beyond a certain point, things go out of control. I always remember this verse. He says our position is exactly like a prey being swallowed by a serpent. Have you seen sometimes Anaconda movie? If you have seen, first it'll circle around and then it'll crush. Normally they say you should protect your neck. Otherwise it'll wrap around your body and then slowly, slowly, slowly suffocate you. And then it'll open its mouth. It'll just swallow. I remember watching in Discovery Channel. They just like go gulp. Just like how you take a gulab jamun in your mouth, you'll pop like that. Once they actually wrap around, kill the prey, they just open its mouth like anything, and the python would just swallow its prey so effortlessly. And it's amazing how elastic their whole body is. And then for weeks at a stretch, they'll just lie in the same place, happily sitting and digesting, or lying down and digesting. Ajagara vritti. They don't go searching for food. They just wait for the food to come. But once it comes, they wrap and they swallow. Now, Narada Muni gives this as the analogy, wherein he says, Kala Sarpa, the snake of time is wrapping you, and the snake of time is already swallowing you. Imagine one half of our body is already within the mouth of Kala Sarpa, of a python, and only another half of our body is outside, which means, literally we are inching towards our death. That's what's happening. One half of our body is outside, another half is within the mouth. How much can we help other people in this situation? We can't even help ourselves. So Narada Muni uses this beautiful analogy. He says, Kala karma gunadino, we are all always within this body, which is being controlled, dictated by Kala, time, karma, activity that we do, guna, three modes of material nature. Already the soul is imprisoned within this body, being tormented by these three modes of material nature. And on top of it, now the effect of time, effect of karma, whatever activity that we had done in the past, that is also coming against us. What can we do? In this situation, we can't even help ourselves. How much are we capable to help other people? Impossible. So he says, Kala karma gunadino dehoyam pancha bhautikaha. Kala Karma gunadino. This body is brought to us by Kala, which is time, karma, whatever activities we did, gunadino, the three modes of material nature. Dehoyam panchabhautikaha, made of the five elements. It just brought all of them together. Katam anyams tu gopayet sarpo grastayata param. So they are all swallowing us, like the serpent of time is swallowing us. This is your helpless situation. Oh, Yudhishthir Maharaj, and you are worried about how can they live without you. This is the position of everyone in this world. How much can we help other people? All we can do is teach people how to take shelter of Krishna. That's all we can do. Because Krishna will never forsake. In one place, Prabhupada jokingly says, but Prabhupada says in a humble position, humble mood to his disciples. So Prabhupada says, don't trust me. I may let you down. But trust Krishna, he will never let you down. It's very important that we understand that we are not the controllers. We sometimes may think, we have our kids, we have our parents, we have near and dear ones, we have our properties, everything. How will things go on in my absence? We don't need to bother. If we put our energy in training the people, if we put our energy in maintaining the proper Krishna conscious culture, the process itself will take care. Krishna will guide them. But we need to teach everyone how to take shelter of Krishna. That's all we can do. Krishna can help. We can't even help ourselves. One time when they asked Prabhupada, how can we control our mind? Prabhupada laughed and he said, controlling mind, impossible. But you pray to Krishna and ask Krishna to control the mind, that's possible. Krishna can control the mind. We can't control the mind. So it's important that we understand we are not the maintainers, we are not the controllers. In fact, we ourselves are being swallowed by the time. So I always remember this when I envisage one half of our body is within the mouth of anaconda and the other half is outside. So it's funny, but it's a very, very powerful analogy which Narada Muni says. This is our position and our body is getting swallowed inside. How much can we help people? Barely we can survive in that situation. And we know it's just a matter of time before we get pulled in within the body of Kala Sarpa. Now, Yudhishthir Maharaj is also thinking, okay, I can't protect him. I'm convinced that my position itself is in a very, very precarious state. But what about Dhrtarashtra's maintenance? How is he going to eat food? Narada Muni says, this is a verse Prabhupada would always quote, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. When people ask sometimes about, don't plants have life? Prabhupada says, yes. But then even being vegetarian, you are killing. Prabhupada would say, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. That's this verse. Ahastani Sahastanam. Apadani Chatushpadam. Ahastani Hastanam. Apadani Chatushpadam. He says that those hasta means hand, ahastani, those without hand are the prey or the food for sahastanam. Sa means with. Hasta means hand, ahasta means no hand, sahasta means with hand. Ahastani sahastana means those without hand are the prey or the food for those with hands. Likewise, appadani chatushpada means those without any legs. In other words, like trees. Chatushpadam, they are the prey for those with four legs, four-legged animals. Falguni tatra mahatam, the weak are the subsistence of the strong in this world. Sounds like a movie dialogue. Narada Muni says this. Falguni tatra mahatam, the weak are always the cause of subsistence, or in other words, the most powerful people subsist on devouring on the weak. This is the ways of life in this world. Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. One living entity will be the food for the other. You might have seen this total ecological cycle that, there may be some little insects or little worms which may be eaten by a rat. A rat will be eaten by a snake. A snake will be eaten by an eagle. Eagle will be killed by a human. So you'll see this. I remember seeing similar artwork as part of our, I think, science lessons in my primary school days. Jivo, Jivasya Jivanam. Again, source of all that knowledge comes from Srimad Bhagavatam only. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatushpadam falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. So here Narada Muni is saying to Yudhishthira Maharaj, don't worry about Dhrtarastra's maintenance. This is the rule. Krishna will provide him something. You don't need to worry about. He says, you simply need to focus on the Supreme Lord. Because on one hand, you have your karma, kala, gunadina. You have your three modes of material nature. You have everything. That is also devouring. You are in a helpless position yourself. In terms of so you can't help others. In terms of maintaining others, there is this law, universal law, wherein jivo, jivasya, jivana. One living entity will be the food for other. You don't need to bother. In this scenario, all you can do is simply focus on the Supreme, take his shelter, and he will take care of everything. He says, focus only on the Supreme Lord, who is without a second, who manifests himself by different energies, and who is both within and without. Supreme Lord is manifesting as Kala. He is manifesting as karma. He is manifesting as different energies. He is also inside, which is Paramatma. And he is also outside as Guru Sadhu Shastra. Take shelter of him. Inside as Paramatma, Chaitya Guru, Prabhupada would say. He is also a Guru. He is inside our heart, but he will also tell us. Always. All of us have this experience. At some point in life, the voice within our heart will be so strong that you know very well, if I do this, this is the best thing I can actually possibly do in this challenging situation. And if you do it, you will feel happy. Yes, I'm glad I listened to my heart. Heart means inside there is Paramatma only, as Chaitya Guru. So in this way, Narada Muni, he tells Yudhishthira Maharaj, come out of lamenting yourself. You are not the controller. Come out of worrying about Dhrtarastra and Gandhari especially. Don't worry about them. Krishna has made arrangements. You simply have to focus on the Supreme and, by the way, understand his mission. That same Supreme Lord who is inside as Chaitya Guru, who manifested as Guru Sadhu Shastra, that same Supreme Lord is Krishna. He has come on his mission now to annihilate the demons, which he had already done, and he had performed his mission here. This way he is slowly hinting, because Narada Muni also knew about the annihilation. So in the same chapter, we see two great personalities withholding bad news. Narada Muni, even at this point, he doesn't tell him anything about Krishna's departure. Even though Narada Muni also knew Krishna had already departed, he is hinting at that news to Yudhishthira Maharaj, saying that is the mission of the Supreme Lord, and by the way, he fulfilled his mission. You Pandavas can be here as long as that mission is complete. That way he is hinting at them also that soon, because Krishna, you will come to know soon that Krishna has already departed, soon you will also be departing, which is the segue to the next chapter, wherein how Pandavas, they retire. So we can see we are talking about the lifestyle, we are talking about the history of the most successful people 5,000 years ago. Even for them, they didn't hold on to their position, power, they didn't hold on to the wealth forever, thinking, I can just be like this. No. They all understood that the purpose of life is simply to serve Krishna. That's all. The purpose of life is to simply be engaged in the service of Sri Radha Gopinath. Many times we think somehow, if we scrap through in this life, when I go to spiritual world, I can do my services and everything nicely. That's not how it works. If we don't fully give ourselves, praner, arther, diya, vacha, in every way, every means, if we don't give ourselves for the service of the Supreme Lord, we will only be directing all of those resources towards increasing attachment. And because of that, at the time of death, we will find it very hard to let go of them. And because of that, we will end up taking birth again. So we need to come out of this mindset that I will be a very good devotee after I go back to spiritual world. It's a catch-22 situation, actually. Unless we are good devotees, we can't go to spiritual world. But we think after I go to spiritual world, I'll be a good devotee. It doesn't work like that. Krishna is a hard task master. In Bhagavad Gita, every single verse, it's like an agreement Krishna puts with his aspiring devotees. Pure devotees, they are already under his direct protection. We are all work in progress devotees. And there is a clear-cut instruction Krishna gives. You do this, then I will reciprocate you with you. And Krishna openly says also, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham. He says, as you surrender, I will reciprocate accordingly. Openly he says, it cannot get any more direct than that. But somehow we have this unreasonable expectation. I was once talking to a youth and he says, Prabhu, do you really think Krishna will punish us? Do you really think difficulty will come to us? I asked him, are you chanting 16 rounds? He said, yes. Do you face difficulty now? Yes, Prabhu. That's the proof. Where is the source of this question? You already have the answer for it, which means it's just a momentary decision for us. Prabhupada says to become Krishna conscious, it just takes a moment. We simply have to surrender to him. But to come to that point, it takes lifetimes. Unfortunately, for many of us, it takes multiple lifetimes and still the end is nowhere near at sight. So we have to understand that the more, it's not Krishna is going out of his way to punish us. It's our choice. Krishna is respecting us to go through the suffering because that's what we desire. But if we want to be with Radha Krishna eternally, now is the time. And now, with whatever means that we have to go and offer our services to Krishna. And then Krishna will give more resources. Then we engage them in his service even more. Again, he'll give more. Again, we engage more. In this way, slowly, even in this life, we'll come to a point wherein Prabhupada says, when they asked him this question, who is the best guru? Prabhupada says, one who is most addicted to Krishna is the best guru. And they asked him, so who's a bogus guru? Prabhupada says there's nothing called a bogus. Guru means it has to be proper. Otherwise, everyone is a rascal. Prabhupada says like that. So we have to understand that it's not that I'll somehow scrap through, somehow I'll actually coast along, and somehow I'll actually make my way back to Godhead. We have to give our everything here. Otherwise, even though the opportunity is there, Prabhupada says when Krishna was there, Supreme Lord was there, not everyone could recognize his position. Prabhupada says barely 30-40 people know that he was Supreme Lord. Can you imagine? Despite Krishna demonstrating such inhuman or superhuman rather feats, so many leelas he performed, so many people he killed, so many miracles he demonstrated, still people didn't surrender to him. So we shouldn't fall in that category that, Krishna consciousness is there. There were so many millions of devotees who have walked this path and attained success. There are so many millions of devotees who are practicing this path of bhakti now, and there'll be many more millions who will be coming after us. So where is the question of doubt here? The process is very clear. It's black and white. We simply have to take it up. And if we follow it, then with every step we take towards our death, we know what is awaiting for us. So here he says, understand his mission. And he says, patiently follow his plan. He has already fulfilled his mission. So you all can actually hang around. You can be here as long as the Supreme Lord is here. Which means he is indirectly telling to Yudhishthira Maharaj that his mission, it's already complete. Which means Supreme Lord's departure is imminent. He doesn't say in the past, or he doesn't say it will happen in the future. He simply hints at Yudhishthira Maharaj about it. And then Narada Muni, just to alleviate the pain in Yudhishthira Maharaj's heart, he now predicts the future movements. And this is something you will see Narada Muni says even to Krishna, predicting about Krishna's movement also. If you read Krishna book, you can see, or 10th canto, we will see, Narada Muni comes and meets Krishna and he tells what all he had been doing until that point as his Leela, what more he will do in future. That also he says. You will see Valmiki. He sits and writes Ramayana even before Lord Ram appears. Can you believe it? Supreme Lord, he empowers his devotees to know everything about him, or as much as is needed for them. So here Narada Muni, using his powers, he actually tells the future of Dhritarashtra. He says, your uncles and aunt have gone to the Himalayas, and specifically Saptashrota. Saptashrota is a place where Mother Ganga, she divided into 7 tributaries simply to help the Saptarishis in their service to the Supreme Lord. So she took 7 branches. That's why it's known as Saptashrota. He tells that's exactly the place where they were heading. And then he says, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in Ashtanga Yoga. And he says this result of practicing this Ashtanga Yoga is Upasantatma. First benefit is it controls the mind and senses. Second, Vigataishana. He says Vigataishana means that it frees one from the thoughts of family. Sometimes when you go to Holy Dham, for example, you will, at least during the time you are in Holy Dham, could be a week, could be 3 days, you won't think so much about your money, you won't think so much about your financial balance, you won't worry so much about even like distant relatives, nothing. You are there in the Dham, the influence of the Dham will be such that you will temporarily, at least you will be free from our usual troubles or our usual kind of material affairs. So here he says control of mind and senses. It gives that. Second is the Ashtanga Yoga which he is practicing will actually give him also freedom from family and thoughts, because Dhritarashtra, very name Dhritarashtra means, Dhrida means firm conviction, very firm. Dhritarashtra means one who has firmly held on, be super attached to his Rashtra, to his kingdom. That's what it means. So for him to let go of, to literally that's like getting initiated. That's a great achievement. So that's the second effect he says Dhritarashtra will go through. Third, he says, which is the most important, Hari Bhavanaya. After letting go of his attachment, his thought will be fully absorbed in the thoughts of Hari. His mind will be fully absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Hari. And finally, he says he will also gain immunity from the contamination of 3 modes. So in this way, Narada Muni, he predicts and he says this is the Ashtanga Yoga he is practicing. And now he will tell Yudhishthira Maharaj about the destination that is awaiting Dhritarashtra. He says Dhritarashtra will then merge into the Supreme Being, realizing his qualitative oneness. So he says he will attain liberation. He won't become a pure devotee, but he will attain liberation this way. And whatever attachment he had actually had would be purified by then, destroying all the impressions arising from the material modes. Dvasta Maya Gunadarko, stopping all enjoyment of senses or eating. Niruddha Karnashayaha Nirviteta Akilahara. He gives up everything, renouncing all material duties. Sanyasta Akhila Karmanaha. He will be immovably established. He'll be focused single-pointedly to attain liberation. He says that now, even after hearing this, Yudhishthira Maharaj may think, Acharya say, he may think, oh, he has just gone there, he's going to struggle, let me go and bring back. Narada Muni says, wait. Dhritarashtra has only 5 days left. Can you believe? In 5 days, Dhritarashtra attained all this. He had already been trained in all of this. Unfortunately, because of his attachment to his kingdom, he was temporarily distracted. Can you imagine somebody attaining perfection in Ashtanga Yoga in 5 days? That's how capable Dhritarashtra was. That's how focused he was. So Narada Muni tells, as if reading Yudhishthira Maharaj's mind, that there's no point in you bringing him. In 5 days, he will attain perfection like this. So he says, in 5 days from now, Dhritarashtra will give up his own body by his mystic power and turn into ashes. So now, Yudhishthira Maharaj may think, what will happen to Gandhari now? Gandhari was given as one of the most chaste women in Vedic times. How she, before getting married to Dhritarashtra, knowing that Dhritarashtra was blind, she didn't want to pose herself any superior to her husband. So she says, no, I'm Ardhangini, I'm one half of my husband. So if he can't see, I won't also see. So she has voluntarily given up her sense of sight. So now Yudhishthira Maharaj is thinking, oh, then now she will be without protection. So Narada Muni, anticipating that, he says in the next verse that he will sit in meditation firmly established. He will get the thoughts of Lord Hari. He will merge into, he will attain mukti, but then using his yogic powers, he will also burn his body into ashes. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj may think, let me go get the body and let me at least do proper funeral rites. Narada Muni says, not needed. He will burn his own body by his yogic power. Now he is worried about Gandhari. What will happen to Gandhari? Maybe I'll go and protect her. Then Narada Muni says, wait, hang on a minute. Gandhari will enter Sati. She will enter into that fire. Her body will also be burned into ashes. She will go along with her husband. So he says, nothing will be needed. So in this way, chaste Gandhari will undergo Sati rites in the fire of husband's body together with the hut. So this will happen in a hut. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj may think, okay, my one uncle is gone, aunt is gone, let me go and get Vidura back. Narada Muni says, Vidura will continue now going for pilgrimage, because that's what Vidura was doing all along. Only reason why Vidura came back to Hastinapur was simply to deliver his brother. So he says Vidura will continue going on, because Vidura was there assisting his brother in his final days. So Vidura was there assisting. Under the guidance of Vidura, Dhritarashtra, he was practicing Ashtanga Yoga, and Dhritarashtra will attain perfection in 5 days, and then Gandhari will enter into the fire, practicing Sati rites, and then Vidura will then leave the place, both delighted and aggrieved. Why both delighted and aggrieved? Delighted because his brother was very attached, always. He was always attached to his kingdom, to his sons, to everything that he had in his life, his position, his kingship, everything. Finally, he got rid of all those contamination. So he is delighted. Aggrieved, some may think that he was aggrieved because he lost his brother. That is there. That feeling will be there. But there is another cause for his aggrievement. And that is, he thinks Dhritarashtra, yes, he has become self-realized. He attained mukti, but unfortunately, he couldn't become a pure devotee. This is the cause of aggrievement, Acharya said. For Vidura. Vidura is delighted because at least he had become a dhira. But little sorry because Dhritarashtra still hasn't become a pure devotee. He couldn't attain prema, but he attained mukti. So in this way, Narada Muni, he shatters all the illusion of Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Narada Muni leaves. Yudhishthira Maharaj holds all those instructions to his heart. And then in the next chapter, we will see how Pandavas, they live their kingdom, everything in a very exemplary way, and move to the forest. Stop there. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। समवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.